variety batchmates here, but so he was. We graduated all together in '79, and then he went to IIM Ahmedabad. And then after graduation, he formed a number of successful companies. And his last one, 2020 Media, was acquired by Publicis France. And then after a couple of years of the handover period, he retired in his early 50s. So he tried, he will be talking about how after retirement, he tried various careers and finally making a disruptive change into comedy writing. So this field was completely alien to him. He'd never been trained for it or done anything like it before. But then in the last 8 months, he has published 6 new books, 35 short comedy video clips with just an iMac, an iPhone, and some yellow pads. His cartoons appear daily in the Times of India. 1,400 have appeared to date. And for leisure, every day he plays bridge with Geeta, his wife, and a few friends. So he'll be talking for about 20 to 30 minutes and then open up to questions. But since there are a good number of people here, we request that you post your questions to the chat box, and then I will read out the questions and Sunil will answer. So please welcome Sunil.
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot for coming. And well, I don't have a formal presentation, but I'd like to share with you my experiences, and because that's the only thing I have. And if that's something that you can relate to, well, then I would have done my job. And looking at so many friends, I'm just, so Rajan and Ambuj, we play bridge, so they better be here. And my wife Geeta is here, then some relatives, my lovely cousin Praveen.
Sunil, sorry, can you unmute yourself, please?
So why didn't you tell me earlier?
Okay. Just a test. Go ahead.
If I, so basically, you know, I'm seeing all my friends here and my close relatives, so I can't let you down. So let me do one thing. Let me just share with you my experiences post-retirement, and you take whatever you want from them. I'll try and be as honest as I can. So basically, let me just tell you, so as Sanjay just said, I retired around 10, 12 years ago. So when I was about 50. For a couple of years after that, I had to hang around in the company in the handover period for the company which had acquired my company, the company that I had founded. Now, the first change was that after it was very clear that this guy is going to go, I realized that the attitude of guys in the company started changing. You know, these same guys who used to hang on to every word of mine, you know, they stopped getting too interested in my vision. And what is worse is they stopped even listening to me. So that was a little embarrassing, but I had to sit through it. And when I finally said farewell and bye-bye and all that in the company, I was pretty glad, if you ask me. I'm sure they were, you know, more thrilled than I was. So the moral of the story is, I think I took myself too seriously when I was the boss of the company. But by the end of it, I was 50. And then, you know, the average age of the company was about 15 years younger. And you can imagine what they would be finding. I mean, this idiot, he keeps telling us what to do. And, you know, the world was moving to social media marketing, and I was still living in the dark ages. So they stopped listening to me, and very well too. So incidentally, I've captured a lot of those thoughts into a new book that I've brought out called Crazy Bosses. So the basic premise of the Crazy Boss is that the guy thinks, you know, he knows more. So I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, soon after I retired, my father passed away. And that was a major event in my life. I mean, he was a very intelligent, very nice person, but that had a very, very major impact in my life because, you know, I realized that for the better part of my life, I had been living his unfulfilled dreams. And he had a lot of unfulfilled dreams. As you know, some of my cousins who are here will tell you. So it was a little tough because no matter what I did, it wasn't enough for him. He never said it, but I could feel it. No, he was very gentle. He was the most humble guy you met. But, you know, the UP engineer, middle class family, and but he looked miserable most of the time. And I lived with the guilt that I was the cause of the misery. Because I wasn't successful. I wasn't successful enough. I hadn't done enough. I hadn't appeared into the IS and bullshit. Anyway, so let me not, but the reason this is important is that later I'll talk about this, that our whole lives are led living somebody else's lives. And things which I would never have done, you know, I was doing them throughout my life. Anyway, then what happened was that after I left, in the initial honeymoon phase, I went around traveling and I decided to play billiards again. I took on a coach and it was pretty interesting. And did a lot of things, a lot of exciting things. And I told myself, I just don't want to see a client for the rest of my life. I've had enough. And this phase was really, really exciting. The only thing I missed in this phase was the social circle. You know, the people, they grow on you. And I was in my early 50s. And the problem was that everybody I knew, they were at work. So in the daytime, it was tough. I mean, who do you go? Who do you go to? Everybody is busy. Everybody is at work. So I found ways to get busy, but that was one thing that was a difficult period during that time. Okay. So then a friend of mine from school, Prashant Bhushan, he we were a little close. So he said, look, if you're doing nothing, there was this India Against Corruption movement. That was a big thing over there. And he said, why don't you come do something? And he introduced me to a guy called Arvind Kejriwal. And Mr. Kejriwal and I, Arvind, actually, we became pretty close. I mean, we used to talk on the phone at least a couple of times every day. And soon he started taking politics very seriously. And this was even before the Aam Aadmi Party was formed. And I remember with him, I'd gone to Goa and given a speech over there. So that was pretty interesting. And, you know, sitting down with a lot of people and making a speech. And then, so it was a very heady and exciting period, you know, being close to the center of power. It was a new experience. And then later, when formally the Aam Aadmi Party was formed, for quite some time, their social media cell, the whole social media department, I have another flat in Delhi. So they used to work out of that place. And so that happened. But, you know, I realized one thing about myself, and that is I was in it for the glory. I said, let me do something glorious. Because if I do something similar to what I had done before, I'd always done, you know, something in the corporate life or venture capital or whatever, it wouldn't be that impactful. You know, it wouldn't be like a very grandiose thing to do. So this politics sounded good. You know, so I had very little interest in helping people. But I said, this is a good thing to do. And if you tell somebody that, look, you're close to Arvind Kejriwal, suddenly the guy looks at you with a new respect, so I like that. But then these guys in the apartment, I started getting upset because they didn't know how to use the toilets. And these things mattered to me because I was, by then I'd got corrupted with air conditioners and with all these things. And I said that, look, in today, I'm just telling you very honestly. So if you think and if you want to judge me, well, too bad. But if you want to take something from it, well and good. And then they said that, look, we want to change our target audience because they'd messed up the middle class target audience, which was their target audience and which I was enjoying. And then from there, they moved on to the lower middle class. And then they said, this is not working out because we messed it up. And now we'll work for the target audience will be the Juggi Jhopdi crowd. I said, I'm out of here. Because tomorrow, if you tell me that, look, you go live in a Juggi Jhopdi and you associate with them, not me. So don't judge me for it. But if you want to judge me, when was the last time somebody from the Juggi Jhopdi sat down on your dining table and had a meal with you? Anyway, I realized that at heart, I was a comfort seeker. Even today, if somebody tells me that, look, live without an air conditioner, I'm saying that, look, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I quit. And then my biggest problem was what to tell people when they ask, what do you do? And India is a very funny country. If you meet people at a cocktail party, the first question they ask you, so what do you do? And that's, so rude, because even before asking you your name, the fellow says, so what do you do? So for the first, 2 sentences, I started lying, oh, well, actually, I'm mentoring people and bullshit. But slowly I realized this is not going to go very far. So I chanced upon an organization called the ECF. It was called the Electronic Communications for Fundraising. It was an international organization made up of people who were in the, so for example, the people were Oxfam, Greenpeace, and all these organizations. And the people who were in the fundraising department, within that, the people who were doing it electronically. It was a big organization of such people, and I joined it. I said, this is a great thing to do. And next time somebody says, what are you doing? I'm saying, I'm in social service. And this is an international organization which does blue, blah, blah. But frankly, once again, I realized I had no desire to help the other guy. I was born selfish and I was selfish. And I remained selfish. And I realized that because, in some of their presentations over there, they were discussing things like genital mutilation. And here I was thinking, so what do I do in London this evening? So, it was a big fraud. And I told myself, listen, you're a big fraud. So the problem all through was that whenever I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw someone I didn't like. And I went through that for a long period of time. And trust me, that's not a nice feeling. But to fill up my day when I came back and I started a magazine, online magazine for the heck of it, called the IITian Online. Some of you, at least from the IIT, must have received it. And it was a nice time pass. It kept me busy during the day. And that was very important, and to be busy. And so it went on, and it gave me a chance to improve my social circle. So I can see Pankaj over there. Once I said, Pankaj, so what do you think of this magazine? He says, look, very frankly, I'm not interested in what other IITians are doing. And that was a big setback for me. I said, hey, if my own friend is not reading this magazine, what the hell am I doing this? And so I used to get dissuaded easily. So I used to start doing something. if two people discouraged it, I used to say, no, this is not good enough. This is not up to my standards. I should be doing bigger things, better things. And then started a gloomy period for me. It's like a clouds on my head. And some people might say depression or whatever, but not clinical depression, but a similar form, where I used to think that, look, it was a terrible feeling, boredom, loneliness, and it was just bitterness. I didn't even feel like getting out of bed. So anyway, that went on, I don't know how many months or whatever. Then I joined the gym. And my life was totally, a total feeling of emptiness. Like in a bull roaming around on the road. That's what I felt like. So I joined the gym. And there was this cute girl in the gym, and who fascinated me. And I started going there very regularly. And definitely, the fact that cute girl used to work out over there had something to do with it. And then I realized that, look, I started following her closely on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then I started following her friends on Facebook. And then I used to keep track of what she's doing, where she goes, which events she's interested in, what is she doing. I sort of got obsessive about this. And she was half my age. And then till one day, because maybe LinkedIn has this thing now that so-and-so watched your profile, etc. So she must have figured this moron, this Buddha is doing this. So she blocked me. Serves me right. But why am I telling you this? See, the reason I'm telling you this is that it's important for me to tell you what emptiness feels like. What you can end up doing, where it can take you. So it's all very well to say, I'm retired. I can do what I want. But watch out. When the chips are down, something will fall. And I'm conscious about these things. I know I shouldn't be doing this. But to realize that you can do this, who else knows what else you can do? And the reason for that being is that when things go down, 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 you don't know where it'll go. I would call this total self-harm. Fortunately, I had to recover because my daughter was getting married around those, or at least she was set to get married shortly thereafter. And I got busy, the guest lists and all that, etc. And all that took up a lot of time. So I just generally, everything passed by and I got busy constructively. Then all these great relatives landed up, relatives, friends, everybody in the wedding event. And I was looking over there and I remember sitting over there near the mandap and just thinking, man, all my life, I did something to impress these guys. And, nobody gives a shit. And I suddenly realized that I'd been living a lie. My whole life had been a lie. I've done things that I hadn't enjoyed. Well, many things that I hadn't enjoyed. And I'd fought the wrong battles. That's basically it. I just fought the wrong battles. I did win. I had that kind of common sense that I could win. But I had just fought the wrong battles. So anyway, I said, screw it, yeah. And a few days later, I still remember 2015 February. I said, I better make some major changes in life. And also the good thing is the house was emptier. And like I told you, we had two places. One was where, I could go to work. and one was the house. So when I was sitting there just working alone, I started thinking, all I used to do was think. And it was a similar study, a study like this, where I used to be alone and just think. And I said, so let me see, what do I really love? If I say my whole life was a lie, then something must have been right. And then I thought about two incidents. So one was when, long back, with the computer event, I had to go to New Orleans. And I was totally alone. And it was my birthday. And this was during the Mardi Gras. No, I think it wasn't during the Mardi Gras. That was some other time. But this was, I was totally alone. And I said, let me do exactly as I please. Fortunately, my family is not with me. So I don't have to do this, come for this shopping, come to this museum and all that nonsense. I can do what I please. And I went to this Alligator National Park. And I just loved sitting on the boat. And I realized that, look, at heart, I'm an introvert. I'm very good at socialization, but at heart, that was me. I just enjoyed being with myself. And that's what I mean by living a lie. It's in these major basic things that you realize that, look, you're a different person outside, but inside you are your real self who is different. So, and the other incident was also in the US. Once through Wipro, I had gone to Santa Clara, and we were staying there on a princely $20 a day given by Wipro, which included food, which included everything. You better spend, and that was the princely somewhat $20 a day. Now, in the weekend, some of my friends who we shared an apartment with, they went to the Great America Parkway. That's what they like to do. And I went to the Santa Clara Public Library. You know why? Because these public libraries in the US are fascinating. They are so different from the junk you have in IIT and IIM and all, where all you have is these stupid books on economics and differential equations and whatnot, and which you don't want to read in any case. It's tough enough reading the college, the lecture notes. But in these places, at least in this Santa Clara Public Library, there were fascinating books on humor, on comedy, biographies. And I just said, this is what I want to do. And I used to look at them. And I think if I remember rightly, anybody can take any book home. I forget, maybe yes. And I used to be fascinated, and I read Joan Rivers and Steve Martin and Mickey Rooney. And I said, there are different worlds over there to be discovered. More than what, so-and-so is a Fortune Man of the Year and all that. And that fascinated me. And I said, okay, if I have to do what I want, let me make a start. And now now comes my main talk. And that is how I started on my main and interesting career. And the start I made was very simple. Step one, I opened up Amazon.com and I looked at all the books through various connections. And I bought maybe 100 books on comedy. And I built a small library in my study. And when the books came, I used to look at them and very lovingly go through them, literally like turn the pages very lovingly. That's a way of getting closer to them, a way of getting, understanding that literally rubbing them off. And then I started talking to people who were in the field. I started seeing a lot of videos. And then I remember I chanced upon an author of one of the books that I liked very much. I still keep it because it was so fascinating. Yeah. This one. And this guy, he basically analyzed comedy. And he said, comedy is basically truth and misery. If there's no truth, there's no comedy. And I realized that in everything I've seen in humor in India, published humor, whatever, there's no truth. It's like bhattas, Santa, Banta, and whatever. There's no truth in it. So there's no comedy. Very seldom will you see some real comedy. And I said, why don't I do something? Because comedy is about ideas. And then I saw this other book called New Yorker. I only read it for the cartoons. And I was fascinated by that. Because I said, there are no cartoons in India. So why don't I create them? Now, a cartoon is an idea drawing. It's not a funny picture. That's a caricature. And most people who were there at that time who were cartoonists, and yes, technically they are cartoonists, I'm not. They were drawing caricatures. I said, where are the ideas? I'm an ideas person. So I said, yeah, if I'm an ideas person, but I need a person who draws the pictures. So then there's a package called, there's a site called Elance. That's where you get some freelancers. So I experimented and I must have gone through tens of them until I said that, okay, there was some guy and I teamed up with him and we started working out and doing cartoons. Then I published a diary which had a lot of cartoons. I sent it out to many, many people. Then I published some feedback forms, asked them for their feedback on the cartoons, etc. And I think my friend Nihar Rao, I just saw his name here. And on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think of this cartoon? And he said 1. And I said, okay. But at least he's my friend. He gave an honest opinion. And I said, that's okay. You have to improve 1 out of 10. And the same Nihar Rao, who's sitting over here today, give me a decent score, I'm sure. Now, that's where you have to get started, but you have to get started. The other thing I'm telling you is you have to immerse yourself completely in that field. And then I called this person, John Warhouse, and I said, hey, why don't you have a look at some of my cartoons? He says, I'll charge for my time. I said, no problem. And he charged a good sum of money for tuitions. But I learned so much in those tuitions because there were nuances. For example, a cartoon or a joke has to be like a puzzle. It has to explode in your mind. You have to solve it. Now, if I tell you the joke, you're not going to find it funny and you're not going to remember it. But if you solve that in your head, in that fraction of a second, not only will you remember it, but you'll love it. And I started practicing, and I think I've written, very frankly, if you ask me, I must have written tens of thousands of jokes in my life. I'll just show you, for example, this is, I shoved it into the other cupboard. I've got yellow pads about this thick. And that's what I did just last year, in the last 1 year. And yellow pads are far better than writing on this word processing thing. Because I love doing it. And that is what, got me. I passed through COVID without realizing it. My wife, she's also on this call. And she'll tell you, I used to just come down in the morning. And I think this was sorry to say this, but 2020 was the best year of my life. It was the most productive because I could be alone. I think I have a problem with people because around people, I find it difficult to be myself. I become a little fake because I have to adjust to what I believe they would be thinking about me. But when I'm alone, I can be myself. And I think that was the greatest gift the last year gave me. And I'm really grateful. Sorry. But so let me just put it this way, that if there's always a silver lining, for me, that was the silver lining, that I could come closer to realizing who I was. And I love that. The degree of self-awareness that grew in the last 1 year was amazing. Then, of course, there's this long story of how I got into the Times of India and how I became quite popular and blah, blah. But that's another session. I can answer questions on that, but that's a huge session because I want to come to the main part, which I think is of value to you. Okay, so see, I was at this growing self-awareness. Yeah. So, see, what happened was I got into this Times of India thing because, again, I was seeking fame and glory. And I liked that initially, but I was very nervous throughout. I was nervous they'd throw me out. I was nervous I was not good enough. You know, I was too anxious. My whole life was one of fear. What will happen tomorrow? What if I wake up tomorrow and my cartoon isn't there? And somebody has said, "Ab chodo usko bhagao." I mean, the guy before me, this is what had happened to him. You know, they just one day pulled his cartoon out. And they said, "Ab chodo tumhara ho gaya, not cartoon, whatever it was." His column out. So I said, "Ye mera bhi hoga." This fear of something happening. But I lasted out. And then I started having problems. I started having problems with my partner. And this is when we got successful. Because see, what happens is that when things are not going well, everything is okay. When things are going well, you start having partner problems. Chalo, I sorted that out with a great amount of cajoling and all that. So in between, the fellow, the editor who had hired me, he passed on. God bless his soul, a very nice fellow. And the new editor came. And again, when somebody new comes, you don't know whether your job will be there or not. But I survived. And then COVID came. And with COVID, the amount of advertising that there was in the Times of India, that really reduced. And what they did was they pulled out quite a few pages, and the page in which the cartoon used to appear, that also got pulled out. And here I was, no cartoon. So the thing that I wanted most in life, that glory, that popularity, got suddenly whisked from under my feet. Now, can you imagine everybody spent 5 years in the IIT and you worked hard? Trust me, I spent more time working harder at this, and it suddenly got pulled out of my feet, you know, and I don't have any place to turn to. And trust me, nothing happened to me. I just took it very coolly. I said, cartoons got pulled out, no problem. I'll do books. And I did books. Here are some of them. I just did books. I said, okay, let's start doing books. And I just did this because I love doing them. 6 books. And then I said, okay, cartoons is good. Let's see if I can do something else. And I started learning to do cartoon videos. And I'm going to release them later this year because I have to, the post-production work is going on. I created 35 video clips. Not just cartoon, but then from cartoons, I moved on to comedy video clips. I said, my field is comedy. The medium can change, but I'm an ideas person. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you adapt. But to adapt, you have to get very confident about yourself and your core. And that comes with a lot of self-awareness. So the biggest gift that I got in these 6 years of comedy writing was that I became confident of myself. And the amount of self-awareness that I had really grew. You know, it's just that I felt I was becoming myself. It was like I'd finally learned to stand on my own feet. And why? Because I had gone into the depth of something. See, earlier, everything was that I was testing it, I was tasting it. I didn't want to jump in. It was always at a surface level. This time I said it's all in. I had gone beyond the point of no return. I mean, in my head, I said, I can't go back. This is it. And I believe that is what leads to growing self-awareness. It's a great journey. Going beyond the point of no return in your own head and going deep. Because if you don't go deep, you don't go anywhere, because it's in those depths that you find things about yourself. It could be any field. I mean, I don't know what you're dealing with, and but whatever it is, trust me, unless you go into the depths of it, you're not going to find anything. You'll find success, but you're not going to find anything sensible or useful. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is the struggle. It was a huge struggle. And it's that struggle that makes things enjoyable. And if you're not struggling for it, I mean, you're not going to enjoy it. So if you believe that after retirement, you will do something, whatever it may be, and you're not, planning to struggle for it, and you're not ready to struggle for it, then I would say just forget it. Go read a book, go see a movie or whatever, because you're not going to find what I believe is the pursuit of meaning in your life. To me, that's become very important. The pursuit of meaning. And frankly, if you ask me today, what would you like to pursue? Happiness or meaning? I promise you, I'll choose the latter. I would rather pursue meaning than pursue happiness. Because getting happiness without having something to be happy for is going to be sour. To me, there has to be a reason to be happy. Like you see grandfathers, they have their grandkids. They have a reason to be happy. I don't have grandkids. But you have to have a reason to be happy. And I think, to me, the reason to be happy is finding a meaning in life. Fortunately, I have a very nice family. I have a wonderful wife and and life. But I have the best wife in the world, who's a million times a better person than I am, and I got lucky. But then you need a lot of luck in life. Whatever I could do, whatever I came to, incidentally, I got into Times of India because of luck. I mean, the guy who was the editor was a known friend. I mean, he was a family friend. So he said, this is pretty good. Tweak them in this way, do this, and then you approach Times of India, and then I'll get it passed if it qualifies these criteria. So that gave me the confidence. You need these things. Come on, you've lived your life. If you tell me you didn't get lucky in some major thing or the other, I'll change mine. Okay, the other thing is, before all these things, whether it was politics and all, they were all about my ego. What can I do which will flatter my ego? And now that I'm doing this, and I had a wonderful year last year, to my mind, from ego, I was moving towards the self. Self, not as in selfish, but towards the self. And that was the most enjoyable part. And you know what happens is, there are 2-3 advantages of this. And I'll say that very quickly because I want to come to the questions and I want to talk to you. So the first advantage of this is, you can face yourself in the mirror more courageously. You get more courage. The second thing is, when the chips fall, as they will, something will happen that you won't be able to say, man, oh, what happened? You'll be able to face that more courageously. The third thing that will happen is, which is what I'm in it for, is that you'll feel alive. I promise you, I feel alive when I do things that I really like after having gone through them in great depth. Had I done the same thing for about a few months, it wouldn't have been the same thing. But after having done this for 6 years, and that too working like a madman, I enjoy it so much that it's literally, I just feel alive when I'm involved in all this. Now, if you don't want to feel alive, well, that's your, it's your life. And by the way, the opposite of the antonym of feel alive is, you know what? Now, I'd rather be alive than dead. I don't know about you. And if you'd rather be, if you'd rather live, then why don't you want to be alive? Now, isn't that a worthy cause? I don't know about you. You might have different objectives. My objective is very clear. I don't want to be so fearful. And yes, I'm less fearful about things. I want to feel alive. I want the self-awareness. And very importantly, I want my life to be experiences. I don't want them to be acquisitions and assets and bullshit and respect and respectability. And the reason I told you about that gym girl, that girl in the gym, I'm saying these things are not important. They're bullshit. So what? What is far more important, and that is what I'm trying to communicate to you, that if I can, then I must be a pretty respectable guy. This IIT gave me some award or something 2 weeks ago. It was some contribution to something. I mean, I do have some respectability, but I'm willing to drop that for you because I think what I have to share with you is far more urgent, far more important for you. If there's one thing I can give you, I would say that, look, allow me to give that to you. You can take it or leave it, do whatever you want. So this is me and this is my life. And whatever you want to ask me, go ahead.
Wow. That was, I mean, to say it was amazing is an understatement. So candid, brutally candid. Very fresh perspectives. You're talking about going from ego to self, and this is what a lot of people, these spiritual masters and all tell us, but you have told it as from a completely different experience set, and it is very, very compelling. So there have been a whole lot of interesting comments and questions. So let me go through those. Yogesh said that, have you really retired, Sunil? You may think so, but others you are observing, you don't think so. So yeah, you really haven't retired, right? Or you've reinvented yourself. What do you say?
I have no idea what retirement or the word retirement means to
Yeah.
my mind. Okay, let me comment on that. I think retirement means giving up on yourself. I think retirement is basically an opportunity to come closer to being yourself. If you don't want to do it, then it's your call. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for self-awareness. It's an opportunity to say, so who am I? Who I really am. It's an opportunity. I mean, you don't have your duties are half of what they were earlier. You don't have to chase many material things, hopefully. You don't have to worry about so many things if you had a relatively clean past. And so it's a great opportunity, and but it's taken me time to discover that. Like I told you, for the first few years of my so-called retirement, I was still chasing glory. In fact, till quite late, I was chasing glory. all this realization has come in the year of COVID when I've had time to be alone.
Nice. Okay, Sudhir Sachdev, he said that I always liked RK more than Sudhir Dhar, and since your work is in TOI, he's going to look for it. Vijay said that, Vijay Ahuja, he said, you chanced upon comedy books in the public library of Santa Clara and figured out what you like and loved. So do you think you would still have been cartoonist, public expression line, had you not chanced upon being at public library in Santa Clara?
Well, yes, because if I had thought about it, I used to like Mad magazine a lot. So if you really introspect, I think, okay, let me take these things from a view of what's of practical interest to you and what is it that you can implement. So now all the questions that you asked, I'm just going to answer them in terms of, so what can you do according to me? So if I'm trying to be, allow me to just tell you from my point of view. For example, think about things that you really loved when you were alone and nobody was watching. At any stage in life.
Right.
I used to like reading, I told you, Mad magazine. So I said, why can't I? And I'm a little, I said, so why can't I create stuff like that? So what if it's not good? I learn.
Yeah. Nice.
Sanjay, just 1 second. Let me just tell everyone that they can not only type their questions in chat, but also you can raise your hand electronically. And after we get through the chat questions, we'll get to some of the live ones as well. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I also like this remark by Sunil that if you have to choose between meaning and happiness, then he would choose meaning. That's pretty weighty thought that we need to reflect on. Okay, Sita S said that thanks for the extremely frank talk. I guess this is what is self-realization. 2 queries. How did you zero in on comedy? And did you rule out several other topics before this?
Sita, I think you joined the talk late because I ruled out 7 things before that.
Yeah, he did.
By practicing it and realizing it was not for me because it was not me.
Right. He was in politics before for some time, right at the top levels with Arvind Kejriwal, who became, he was very close to him. But he got out of it. Okay, Samir Bell. Hi, Sunil. Did you stumble on comedy or did you always know that you had a passion for it? Is the latter then at what made you try your hand at different activities before settling down on it? I guess this was just addressed, but yeah. Sunil, you want to add anything more?
No, it wasn't really addressed. Samir, see, basically, when I threw up my hands, I said, screw it. It can't go any worse. I gave you a few incidents, what had happened before that, the sort of a depression that I had gone into. I said, yeah, I'm a fighter. I have to come out of this. And I can only I can get myself out of this. And the only way out is what I've always done. I've said I have to create a solution. And this time it has to be a solution that I have to commit to. And the reason that was the point of no return was that I told myself that, look, if this time I fail myself not in terms of if I don't succeed in comedy, but fail myself in not committing, I won't be able to go back anywhere. Then I'll just lie down and, with the bottle of whiskey or something. And so, see, commitment means, I think the key is figuring out a point of no return. For example, okay, physically, what did I do in the point of no return? I think when the cartoons started coming out in the Times of India, I had a huge party. I don't know, Raman Madhok, I think, was there, among other people. And it was in the Oberoi, and there were, I think, 300, 400 people, whatever. And I announced to everybody. And the reason I announced this was because my image is very important to me. And I said, if I tell people I'm going to do this great thing, then I better stick to it. Because otherwise people will say he was a fool, like we told you. And that's why I worked hard at it, because I created a point of no return. It's like what every entrepreneur does. He puts everything in and he says, now I have to make it happen.
Sanjay, please unmute yourself.
Sorry. So Raman said, Sunil, I'm sure that many of your friends and relatives don't think of you as a cartoonist, but a cartoon. How have you dealt with this? Very difficult for many to deal with this reality of yours achieved after a big struggle.
Okay, so firstly, the good thing that has happened is that over the years, especially after success, see, I think failure makes people bitter. But after you gradually start achieving something, you know, with that self-awareness, uh, in my life, earlier other people mattered a hell of a lot. That was the only thing in my life, other people's opinion of me. I was totally self-absorbed and selfish. But now they matter, to a much smaller degree. For example, recently, I don't know if I got some award or something. I'm not even putting it in my LinkedIn because, and when I received the award in that Pan IIT or IIT Delhi Alumni Association or whatever, I was the only one laughing because I said, listen, yaar, I don't believe I deserve this award. Why should you believe that I deserve this award? And I mean it because I found it funny.
Sanjay, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Sorry. Sita said that RK Lakshman also did comedy as a mission to make people realize the truth. Do you feel something similar?
Okay, so I think one thing I realized about comedians, the more I studied it and the more I went into the psychology of comedians. See, all comedians, all humorists have one thing in common. They have all had a traumatic childhood. This is true for every comedian anywhere in the world. Number one. And it's a way of compensation. Let me make people laugh. Because by me making people laugh, I'll be able to connect with them. Usually the trauma is a lack of ability to connect with people. For example, it's always been very difficult for me. I had zero friends in school. I had absolutely zero friends in school. Why? Because I was about, 1 foot shorter than the next guy in school. And if anybody was in a bad mood, he'd come and beat me up. And I was very lonely. And I passed through school. In fact, when I came to the IIT, I was a misfit, not in terms of any other terms, but I stood out as an odd guy because I was socially awkward. So when this thing began, it was my way of connecting with people. And that was very satisfying. Even today, I find it difficult to connect with people unless it's through my work. And that's really what I want to do. And that gives me great satisfaction that I can be of service to somebody through my work. And that's why I like my work so much. So if Raman, if you say you look like a cartoon or whatever, I don't care. I know you're a good person and you mean it well. Because, see, I want my work to touch you. I can't touch you. Okay, so if my work can touch you, it gives me great joy. It brings meaning to my life.
Nice, wonderful. Okay, so Sujata.
Yeah, so Sudhir Sachdev would like to ask a question, so we can call on him when we are done with the chat questions. But also, I'm not sure that electronically people are able to raise their hands. So, in a little bit, I'll just allow people to unmute themselves. But if you could just raise your hand physically so we can see you, turn on your video so we can call on you, that will be more orderly. But please go ahead, Sanjay. And after these questions, please call on Sudhir also. Thanks.
Right, there are just a few more. So, yeah, Sita said, yeah, you realize the truth. So, yeah. Sunil, Sujata said, for this extremely honest and candid sharing, your journey into yourself and arriving at meaning is not only incredible, but also inspirational. All the best for your future. Cool.
Okay, firstly, I've not arrived at any meaning. But what I've arrived at is the feeling that I will pursue meaning knowing that the damn thing doesn't exist. But I'm enjoying pursuing the meaning. And I will continue to do this whether you like it or not. Why? I'll tell you 2-3 things are happening. One is my fears are reducing. I sometimes go for a walk and I listen to that song from Frozen. Oh, that one, that into the unknown, into the unknown. See, we all have fears. I started off thinking my fear is that I will be a nobody. And this is after some people said that I had succeeded. I felt I was there was this imposter syndrome and all that, blah, blah. But at heart, I felt that I didn't deserve it. Now, many fears like that are slowly disappearing. And I feel strong, I feel courageous, I feel confident. Would you not want that?
All right, wonderful. So, okay, Sunil, what kept you motivated? Pankaj says, what kept you motivated? Do you want to answer that?
Okay, I think the frank answer to that is that I have always been so socially awkward that I purposely put people off. Either I'm a braggart or I'm a pain. So I put people off. And the thing that I'm afraid of most is I believe that if people watch me fail, they laugh. So what motivates me is that if I start doing something, this fear of having people laugh at me motivates me. However, that over the years, through whatever I told you throughout the talk, has changed or is changing to, yeah, I'm my own judge. Because so many people don't matter to me. I have this app on this phone, it's called Relate. And in this app, Relate, it's got 4 categories. It's got family, close friends, acquaintances. So I put down a few people in the family, not everybody in the family, few in close friends, few in friends, and few in acquaintances. Now, anybody outside this list, I say, I do not care what they think. Okay, now I just need to focus on this and live my life. That's fine.
Okay, great.
Sanjay, call on Sudhir and then take some more from the chat. Okay. And
Okay,
Sudhir,
Sudhir,
you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
you go.
Sudhir, yeah.
Hey guys, hi Sunil. This is my first time really listening to you. I'm not an IIT and not as brainy as all of you are. So I'm in New York, do some teaching and have some other interests. Your journey certainly is interesting, and how you came out of some of your own barriers, if you will, to come back and start on comedy. And like you said, some trauma in life and stuff like that. So I guess if I was to relate to some of it, most of it, I can say, yeah, there has been a lot of trauma, which continues kind of a thing. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. My real observation is, when you talked about comedy and then you said you put everything in, but inherently, as you're putting it up on Times, and my father actually used to work for Times of India for many, many years. So, so that's how I used to follow. If nobody observes your cartoons, right, and they're there, but there is no feedback one way or the other, let's say nobody even cares, not to even report to it, how would you feel about that? That it's there, but nobody even says it's good or bad, right?
Okay,
So
I have an
is it
answer to
something
that.
that, what's that?
My good friend Vineet Taneja, I suddenly see him, he's over there. So what happened this year, the middle of, I think July or something, 2020, I started producing cartoons for myself. And he started commenting, he follows them very closely. The quality is not so good. I don't understand them, etc. I said, to hell with you. I've stopped creating for you. I'm creating for myself. And if you don't like them, too bad. Go read another book. Now, I'm sure that happened with many people. In fact, it did, because the number of percent of people who used to open my WhatsApp dropped from 71% to 70% to 69% to 68%. I just didn't care. Because I said that, look, I am here to express myself. By the way, in my cartoons or in what I write, the comedy, there's always a message. I don't want to write something just to tickle people and make people laugh. That's not my style. So if I have a message, I'm going to give that message. It's not that everything that you say, everybody wants to listen to it. So it's too bad. Yeah, but just to correct that. So when it dropped, the open rate dropped from 71 to 65. I panicked a little. I said, no, ab aadhe to aise dalo jo sabko samajh mein aaye, and do half of them jo ki matlab for the fun of it. Yeah. So you
just to say one comment, I know you will. In Hindi, we always say, right? Jungle mein mor nacha kisne dekha, right? So that analogy, for all of us, at some inherent level, we all look for something, right? And it is in denial, then all of us will say, okay, I don't care, or whatever. We care. We do care. What level we care, that is different, I guess. Right?
Yeah. So basically what has happened is that if mine was at a level of 80 earlier, it's far, far, far lower right now. Thanks.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw your book on Amazon just now on Donald Trump. Of all the things, that the first thing that came up on Amazon that you have written cartoons on. So I have to buy that book now.
Thanks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Sudhir. Ramesh Katte said that my idea of to retire, R-E-T-I-R-E, is spelled R-E-T-Y-R-E, to carry on your next innings of life. Reinventing yourself and making yourself useful to yourself and others is just another way to look at it.
I can only share with you my experiences, which I did.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I know.
Okay. So Vijay Vazirani joined us. As you may have noticed, he said he just got up and dialed in. He's on the West Coast, so it's a little bit early.
Thanks for coming, Vijay.
Rajiv Goyal said Sunil would choose meaning between happiness and meaning. I believe choosing meaning would give happiness.
I think I must have exaggerated that, but what I mean to say is that to me, I think the route to happiness would be find the route to meaning And then happiness will be a byproduct rather than the other way around. I think that's what I meant. So don't get me wrong.
Okay, Alok said, is the calculated amount of boredom a creative force?
Absolutely. I think it is imperative that you need to be bored. You need to take time out to be bored, out of your mind. Because without that, you cannot be creative. You have to do the equivalent of doodling in your life in whatever form you have to. You have to binge watch 3 serials, have 40 beers to be able to say, man, I better get out of this. And suddenly idea aata hai.
Kanan said, hi Sunil, profound reflections. R.K. Lakshman and Dilbert are two cartoonists I have enjoyed. As a pro in the cartoon space, how do you distinguish the concepts of these different creators?
Okay, I can talk about the cartoon part first or second. But before that, I'd just like to add one thing. So Dilbert or Scott Adams, very bright guy. If you listen to his interviews and videos, you'll say, man, this guy is, he should be speaking as the keynote speaker in the World Economic Forum. Because these guys know hell of a lot about hell of a lot of subjects. Because the amount of awareness that you have to have, you lose that connect with the world otherwise. So I said, my self-image has to become like Scott Adams. So you have to start putting yourself in that role. If I'm watching his video, I'm trying to mimic his body language. I'm trying to say, इसने ये कार्टून बनाया है तो मैं अपने स्टाइल में क्या बनाऊं? See, you have to start living the part, and then even if you come as 1/20th of this guy Scott Adams, you're doing pretty well. So you have to study. So this is one thing. Whoever you want to become, I would say immerse yourself absolutely, completely into that ecosystem and give yourself a role. I want to become this guy, and then your chances of moving on, because you'll become more ambitious. If your ambition is that my wife should find it funny, then, due respect to her, then you're not going too far. Okay, next, about R.K. Lakshman. See, R.K. Lakshman was a genius, number one, because his discovery that the identity at that time, and it must have been the 60s, of every person with a common man. He identified the common factor, which was wo kuchla hua aadmi. Exactly what Arvind Kejriwal did. Every speech of his would squeeze in between. Wo kuchla hua aadmi. What it basically means is, man, arise, awake, fight. That's all you need to move the masses. That's what Donald Trump does. Okay, so he understood that this is the common factor among everybody in, the middle classes in India, and that was just about everybody. That the system has screwed you and will continue to screw you. And when people laugh, it is a shared experience. Laughter is a shared experience. Seldom do you laugh alone. It's a shared experience. Shared means, even if you read it, the shared experience means there are other people also who are going through this. And then you feel that you can bear it a little better. So that is this fellow, what R.K. Lakshman did. Dilbert did the same thing. Scott Adams did the same thing. Because he identified the simple research. 80% of people hate their jobs. They don't dislike their jobs. They hate their jobs. That's a gold mine for a cartoonist. He says, "Bulao yaar, ye to main to uske joke likhta hu," and that's a great idea. That's a good thing. Like right now, I would say my field was that people are, overwhelmed with technology. So that's one way of saying, and we can't cope. See, whenever you can't cope, when you realize that there are other people like you feel better.
So, Sanjay, I also have a comment and a question. When you have a chance, please call on me. But I know there are a couple of other chat questions also.
Yeah, they keep coming. So should we just stay with this or just keep going through this?
Yeah, actually, let me quickly just actually comment and ask a question that so far has not come up in that vein. So, Sunil, when I listen to you, firstly, it's breathtaking, your level of introspection and authenticity and honesty in sharing. Thank you so much for that amazing contribution to us. But I see two things, key things in your talk. One is you mentioned the emptiness and the lack of meaning and the downward spiral and all that. Now, most of us don't have the courage to confront the darkness, the resignation, the cynicism, the lack of profound inner satisfaction. So I acknowledge you for that courage and introspection, but did someone help you? Were there anyone who in your environment who helped you go through that introspection? Because the latter part of your life, like once you started experimenting and you found this new way of self-expression, that's also fascinating, the comedy part itself,
I'll tell you who helped me, and I'll tell you truly who helped me. Who helped me was the man in the mirror. I just started mocking myself every time I looked at it. And I said, what have you made of yourself? And then I came up.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Sanjay, please. There might be other questions.
Okay, so yeah, Amitabh Rituri said that not sure about that analysis, always thought you as friendly and gregarious. Wow, good to see you. The one about being a loner. Of course, your life, your candidness was always impressive.
Is that Amitabh Raturi you said?
Amitabh Raturi.
Hi, how are you? See, Amitabh, there is a difference between he's a jolly good fellow, he's a good friend, and he's a guy to be intimate with, who you share a certain degree of intimacy where you can be with without saying a word. I don't think I would be in the last category. The others I'm damn good at it. In fact, I've built a career on it. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know that look, the only way you succeed as an entrepreneur is in what's so-called networking. No networking, no entrepreneur, period. Okay, and I've been a good one and I've done it thrice. So there's no problem in my social skills. My problem is that I find it difficult to sit with people if I don't have an agenda. And I feel very awkward around people. So I have a problem with intimacy, basically that.
Amazing. Your answers. I'm Yogesh.
This is the year of COVID. And if there's one thing that COVID has taught us, is that life is short. It can happen to you. Abhi, the other day, the last month or whatever, November, December, one of the closest people I know, family, friends may say, went through a very bad time. He's here beneath the native. And it hit me very badly. And the reason it hit me very badly was that I thought, hey, this is that same idiot who, whenever I feel like, I just pick up the phone and abuse him. And we enjoy our company. I mean, I don't want to say this, but the thought came to my mind. It says, what if one day I won't be able to do that? And so in this COVID year, your basics have been questioned like never before. Anyway, sorry, I've forgotten what I wanted to say.
Okay, so Yogesh Chandler said, I'm curious to hear about your thoughts on compassion. Dalai Lama talks a lot about it. Do you think you are becoming more compassionate now than earlier?
So I told you when I got started off, compassion is the last thing that I could touch or was touched by. You know, I would say it's better now, but it could be much better, and hopefully, that would be on the good road to be in. But certainly not. I would not say that I'm a compassionate person. So sorry about that. I think whether you judge me or not, I really don't care. But what I'm here for is I want to share, because that's maybe you'll get something out of it. And I would say, whatever it is, if I could leave you with one thought, please be more candid with yourself. It's good for you. And in that candor, take action with something or the other. And if you fear, what if I try and I fail and I realize that I wasn't as a big shot as I thought as I was? Well, bullshit. You won't feel alive sometime or the other, or like in my case, you'll move into that road to emptiness and you'll do stupid things. So do it for yourself.
So hold on. So you said that you want to stay connected with people. You have trouble naturally connecting. So these are your mechanisms for connecting with people.
I realize this is a huge mechanism, my work and reaching out to people, and I know it touches them. Now, I don't need to get that feedback so much. I hardly read the messages, by the way. My assistant, he sends out all these messages, and once a week, he just puts a whole lot back to me. And frankly, I can't see all of them. I can't see them. And but the point is, I know they're working, and that means a lot.
No, understood. But that means that isn't compassionate related to kind of connecting with people?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, don't talk to me about subjects that I'm not an expert in.
Okay, well, fine. Okay, really amazing. Bhaskar Narang said, really amazing way of sharing journey. Success versus joy, book written by you with Geet Sethi. How does it relate to your being into cartoons? Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm sorry, how does it?
How does it relate to your being into cartoons? You wrote a book on success versus joy with Geet Sethi. How does it relate to your being into cartoons?
Sure. So basically, the biggest thing is that whether it's cartoonist or an artist or whatever, at heart, he has to go through distilling himself. Sorry, in heart, in everything. There has to be a huge amount of introspection behind it. He has to have a burning desire to find himself. And the entire creative process is nothing else but a pursuit of knowing yourself and expressing yourself. I got started with this whole thing, not started, but I went through a lot of pain in putting together that book, Success versus Joy. It taught me a lot, but it also taught me that this is where my area of interest lay. These are the kinds of things that I like doing. That was me. So when this happened, I feel that I can feel and I'd like to express that. And as long as I have something to say, I shall express that. I will say it. And as long as I can figure out how to say it, that would keep your interest, I will say that. And that's me. Or at least I'm realizing that's me.
Okay. Vazirani said that, Sunil, you are not alone in having these thoughts about your childhood. I'm sure half of us feel we are unique in having had a uniquely dysfunctional childhood and having been awkward.
Vijay, coming from you, man, you were the most intelligent guy in the IIT by far.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
Maybe we should put through every child should have a traumatic childhood. Maybe that works.
It's a school requirement. All right. Bridge, you said you have a comment and a question. You have a comment now?
So no, I did express it earlier. I have another question, but I'll wait. I think there are a couple of other chat questions, then you can come back to me. Thanks.
Okay, Sudhanshu Nayak, by the way, he's our wonderful guitar teacher through a number of us batchmates. He's also a very spiritual type of fellow, which makes his guitar teaching even more incredible. But so you mentioned a comment, you just said totally, you want to elaborate on that?
No, I first, okay, hang on. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean spiritual kind of person? What does that mean?
Oh,
hello, hi.
Let me just explain that. Sorry, Ranshu, can I just take a second?
Sure,
what
sure,
I'm
sir.
realizing is a spiritual kind of person is somebody whose spirit, जिसकी जान जाग गई है. अब कैसे जागी है, क्यों जागी है, वो सबके ऊपर है, अब सबका अपना अपना. लेकिन अगर तुम्हारी जान ही नहीं जागी है, तो कर लो तुम स्मरण, कुछ भी करो, फायदा क्या है? Right? And this whole process that I am telling you after retirement, what is अपनी जान को, at least मेरे साथ what worked was कि मेरी जान जाग रही है. And if you call that spiritual, I don't know. So what do you call it spiritual? Please, Sudhanshu.
Sir, well, I did really like some of the comments. That is, the mirror part where you looked at yourself and आपने बोला कि it was like a self-realization. For that, Sanjay sir, I messaged saying totally, because until unless the realization comes from within, तो मतलब होता ना एक अंदर से you feel very irritated and you look at yourself and say, what am I doing? And the very brave thing is that that you decided that was like awakening thing. So for that, I totally said totally for that. And I really admired the way you have taken this whole passion of yours and not given up so far. So congratulations to you on that, sir.
So let me just correct that. So right now on this chat, I can see 4 people I play bridge with every week. And I typically play 3 to 4 hours of bridge every day. Amitabh probably plays more than us. Amitabh, can I ask you, how much are you playing these days?
Hold on one second. Let me just, yeah, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah.
That's Professor Amitav Raduri. He was in Nyayam with us.
You're muted.
Okay.
Okay, now,
Muted.
Sunil, Sunil, we have about 300 people in the Pan IIT Bridge chapter. Please join. I'm going to add you. It's about 4 to 5 hours a day now, but I'm also a radio jockey. Just like you, I'm reinventing myself. So I retired last year. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just connect that to spirituality. See, playing 4 hours of bridge can be a spiritual experience. What's the difference? See, it's not what you do. It's how alive you can feel while doing it that is spirituality, according to me. And if you feel alive doing something, that is spirituality. Why are you not doing it? But if you feel dead, and if you feel like you've been fed something, that is not spirituality. By the way, I have no idea of the spirituality, Bhagavad Gita and all that. But I'm just telling you what I feel.
Okay. I need to leave for just a couple of minutes because I think my son is leaving.
Yeah, I can.
Continue. Yeah, I'll join you guys in a few minutes.
Yeah. So, so Sunil, I'll get to a couple of the chat questions, but you've touched on compassion and spirituality. My brief comment / question is that to me, you seem like a kind and caring person, no matter how you label yourself. Meaning, firstly, we're providing humor to so many people by introducing that lightness and happiness. You make so many people have an easier time in life. And whether you're a political activist or not, like I don't know whether you call yourself an activist in some sense, but I feel like you care about people. And this sense of aliveness that you mentioned, where again, I'll say that it takes a lot of courage to confront the lack of aliveness when we feel dead or we're just surviving or something like that. But that aliveness connects you with your environment, with nature, with other people. And I feel like once there's a connection, the caring and the compassion is a natural outflow. Anyway, just sort of brief
Okay,
comment.
so I'll comment on that.
Yeah.
So let me say there is a scale, and since we are a little quantitative in nature, the scale goes from dead to alive. In between, you have living. Okay. Now, I'd rather move from living to alive. Because once you've tasted the feeling of really being alive, you say, I mean, why the hell are you pushing me towards the living and the dead? And when you have a choice and you have some imagination, you push yourself, or you can push yourself into feeling more alive. And that's what I believe is the goal of my life.
But Sunil, it looks like that access to aliveness, the beginning point of that is honesty and self-reflection, like authenticity. Without that, if you can't even feel what you're feeling, no matter if the feeling is not welcome, then that you can't even like do anything beyond that, right? So
I'll add to that. I think the beginning point is also fear. Fear of facing ourselves. You know, for a long time, I had this fear. Very, very long time. And very frankly, I don't feel so fearful about many things now. And I think that's the greatest gift that I have got of late. That fear has reduced, fear of consequences. Because I don't even think about jab hoga to dekha jayega. It doesn't strike me for many things. But I think earlier I was fearful and anxious about everything. People I was close to in my company used to say, you know, everything you are paranoid about. And I used to pull out this book by Andy Grove saying, only the paranoid survive. So, you know, but this people talk about you guys here in Ubuntu, equanimity and bliss and peace and whatnot. I think it's basically saying the same thing. Ki sthir ho jao, right? I'm saying, yeah, if that's the way, I'm all for it.
right. So I'll just read one comment and then I'll open up the forum to people who want to just unmute themselves and ask at this point in the talk. So Ramesh Subramaniam is saying, Sunil, thanks for sharing your experience as a help to all of us to find meaning. For others if interested, it says, meaning as a route to happiness has been well articulated as logotherapy by Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Is an excellent read. Anyway, that's just a comment.
My comment on that is, my experience is, it has to be a struggle. Please, and I'm repeating myself, whenever I had things easy, although people thought, "Arey, kya achievement hua?" Whenever I had it easy, I did not learn.
So Yogesh is asking, there are lots of thanks in the chat window, but Yogesh is asking, Yogesh Andle, what is it that you have never done so far that you would like to do now? And then after that, after you answer that question, then people can unmute themselves and just ask a question directly. Thank you. Go ahead.
So when I was preparing for this talk, I was sweating because some guys like Manjul Kulshresh and all said, I have also forwarded this to my school group, college group, this group, that group. I said, oh my God, I could deal with my IIT batch because we know each other and we are all monkeys. But if you send it out to people I don't know, what will happen? And I sweated. And I said, what will I do? I thought of making PowerPoints because they hide a lot of things. You know, when you have a PowerPoint, the guy is busy watching slides. I said, I'll fill up the PowerPoint with my cartoons. While they're busy laughing, you know, I'll finish off the presentation. But then I decided to just share and speak. I said, what the hell? What will you do? वो थप्पड़ शप्पड़ तो नहीं मारेगा ना?
All right. So at this point, the floor is open. You can just unmute yourself. By the way, Vineet Taneja says Sunil ki he's back in case you want to make more fun of him. But anyone, please, at this point, you have the ability to unmute yourself. Please unmute and ask or comment. You know, even if you don't have a question, maybe you have a comment. Hey, Vijay Vazirani, would you like to say anything? Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Vijay.
I think, Bridge, you have to unmute him.
So
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
Hi, Vijay.
Hi. Sorry, I joined late. I told Sanjay I may or may not be able to join. It depends on, Saturday is not a day to start.
It's 7 a.m. over there. I don't blame you. Yeah.
I have nothing. Okay. I always think of myself as having a slight Jewish streak in that I like to maintain Saturday as a Sabbath so that I get relaxed for the rest of the week. Just in that. So anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Whatever I got, I really enjoyed. And I've enjoyed your cartoons immensely. And I think one thing you said is that you have to have imagination. And that's, I think, a key. If you have imagination and some motivation, you can do lots of things. I see many people in their professions without imagination and just going around churning the wheels and without getting anywhere. And, for instance, writing tons and tons of papers that are about nothing. And it's a matter of imagination.
So Vijay Vazirani, just as an introduction, I mean, people know that he has an IQ of like 1,000.
Oh, no. Come on. You look at my profession, you will not think of me like...
I'm from the IIT. Bridge, would you say that's true?
No, come on.
Of course, but let me just say, Sunil, in that regard, since your talk has been so multidimensional, that Vijay is, of course, one of the most brilliant people I know. But, in what you have articulated, you have also distinguished different kinds of intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence, self-awareness, social empathy and all that. Of course, Vijay, like many of us, have gone through our life lessons at this stage in our life where we a lot of sort of introspection, different kind of sort of self-awareness. Just wanted to sort of mention that as well, that for all of us, that process of growth and development has been happening. And by the way, for people who are not familiar with the Ubuntu that Sunil mentioned, it's a session we do amongst IITians every 2 weeks to share our life lessons,
Okay.
So I just want to add, Sunil, one more thing. So once I was dabbling around with the sitar many decades ago, and I used to go to Shantiniketan a couple of years to dabble around with somebody who was pretty good. And I said, hey, you are so good. Why is Ravi Shankar more famous than you? And he said, Kalpana ki baat hai. Exactly what you said, imagination.
Well, I would just add to that. And I think let's say intelligence is one thing. A lot of it is also to do with fear. What keeps us from the imagination part is our fears. And it is this feeling of that in this security, let me do things which are tried and tested. So a lot has to do with that. And also, the terrible thing is that it's so easy today to escape into a false world of imagination. It's so easy to watch something on Netflix and keep playing those roles. So you're imagining. So, I binge watch. But the imagination is not, I imagine myself to be in that role. I am playing out that drama. It's highly entertaining and involving. So why should I go somewhere else? And the reason you need to go somewhere else is this. You need that level of, you need to become yourself so that you can ultimately face yourself in the mirror.
So any other comments? Please just unmute yourself or raise your hand. You have to turn on your video. If you're not able to unmute yourself, just raise your hand and I'll send you a prompt. So Sunil, so go ahead, Yogesh, please go ahead and let me just locate you and send you a prompt. Okay, you should be able to unmute.
सुनील, सबसे बड़ी खुशी तो मुझे ये है कि तुमने स्थिरता को प्राप्त कर लिया है।
बट वो मेरी बीवी बैठी हुई है, कल मारेगी कि क्या लोग को तुम क्या पढ़ाते हो।
नहीं, ये तुम्ही ने कहा है और तुम्हारी बातों से ही महसूस हुआ कि अधिकतर हम सब लोग जो हैं कहीं एंजाइटी में, कहीं फियर में, कहीं किसी और चीज में कंटिन्यूअसली हमारा जो दिमाग का सीपीयू है इज कॉन्स्टेंटली रनिंग।
भाई पहली बात तो आई थिंक for example, you, and let me tell you a little bit about Yogesh Anle. So you have integrity, and I'll tell you what integrity means with an example. My friend Sri Yogesh Anle was one of four Johnnies who founded this company called Nucleus, which was a piddly looking company which used to sit in the in Thiagraj Nagar with 3 rooms. And whenever I used to go there, one fellow used to say, इनको carpet वाले room में ले जाओ, which meant it was a conference room smaller than this room, which had a carpet, which was the big thing in that company. Now what happened was that these fellows probably, and I'm got some huge contracts from Citibank and stuff about when the BPO boom happened. So they said, let's form 4 companies. So they formed 4 companies and there are these 4 guys. So this is किसको कौन सी company मिलेगी? तो उन्होंने कहा ऐसा करते हैं, toss करते हैं, literally, approximately. And सबको toss कर दिया. You won't believe it. Yogesh got the worst deal of the worst company. And that company was worth piddly amounts. The fellow who got the best deal was Polaris. His company was worth 3,000 crores. And he walked out. Yogesh walked out saying, congratulations. In the US, man, this would be lawsuits, all through. Now that is integrity.
So do you want to respond to Yogesh's comment on sthirta? कि आपने स्थिरता पाई है?
नहीं, स्थिरता पाने कितनी अकल पाई है कि स्थिरता पाने का ये रास्ता है.
हाँ. So योगेश जी, आप कुछ और कहना चाहते हैं about the mind being so active?
बहुत बढ़िया सुनील, क्योंकि हम सब लोग अपने अपने तरीके से स्थिरता की तरफ जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. कभी हम मेडिटेशन से जाते हैं, कभी हम डीप स्टडी से जाते हैं, स्पिरिचुअलिटी से जाते हैं. तुम्हारा भी एक अपना तरीका है, मगर खुशी ये है कि तुम स्थिरता की तरफ मान रहे हो, कि स्थिरता की तरफ पहुंच रहे हो.
So मेरा तरीका यही है, act. सबका अपना अपना तरीका है. My तरीका is act with whatever you've got.
बहुत बढ़िया.
And also, Sunil, एक और perspective है कि, let's say there's a conditioned part of our existence, automatic, जो योगेश जी बोल रहे हैं कि CPU चलती रहती है, survival, looking good, this, that. So I think laughter returns, at least for a moment, to that openness, that wholeness, at least for a moment. थोड़ी सी उसमें honesty है, थोड़ा connection है. In fact, the Sufis say that if you listen to 7 jokes in a row, they have some special kind of jokes, it leaves you unconditioned and more open, for whatever the path is. So I think your laughter is providing a tremendous contribution, Sunil, both compassionate, like people need laughter in this COVID era and all that, but dukh to bahut hai logon ko. And then I think it opens them up. So just wanted to provide that perspective also. It's a good access to wholeness.
Yeah, so that is a great motivator. But I'll leave you with one thought on this subject, and that is, I laugh so that I do not cry. Because that is the pathos of things.
So Pankaj has a question. Pankaj, go ahead and unmute
Is
yourself.
that an actual golf course behind you in Scotland or what?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sunil, मेरा सवाल ये था कि you talked about going all in, right? Now let's say someone does go all in, and then is doesn't get the recognition or is told is an idiot, or what does one do? So there is a bit of a risk, like in poker, you go all in and you stand the chance of losing all out.
Okay, hang on. A 20-year-old going all in will do it with money. A 40-year-old will do it with different things. At the age of 60, going all in means, in my case, you look at the guy in the mirror and say, I will beat you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. See, I'm not talking about money. I'm still talking about pursuing something that you love. Say someone wants to be, mm, let's say I want to be a cartoonist just like you, and I start go all in, start creating some kind of comedy, but don't get the recognition, put in all the effort, and then become a joke. And I, would that put me in some kind of a dark pit, make me somehow uh, distressed and
Yes, the answer is yes.
depressed?
My wife is sitting over here. Ask her how many nights I have cried, what battles I have fought, what humiliation have I come across. You know, so and so let me down, so and so abused me, so and so did this. You know, it all looks very rosy when you see the result. But when you see the fabric behind it and what went into making it, ask her. Why don't you ask her? I mean, well, can you ask Geeta to just, I hope she's still there and she's not making something. Geeta, are you there? Yeah. Geeta, can you just say, I mean, she'll say I was seriously disturbed through these 6 years. I was going nuts. So it doesn't come easy once again if you don't struggle and perhaps get a
No,
lot
I
of
think
luck.
you enjoyed it. You weren't going nuts.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is you agree that I went through a hell of a lot of problems.
You did a lot of hard work.
Chalo yaar, you
Put
don't
in a
agree.
lot of
Okay.
So, Acha, so it sounds like, it's coming up to the 2-hour mark. So we'll start bringing this to a close. But one question, Sunil, your exploration, jo bhi aapne different things you tried and all that, was financial stability in the background an enabling factor? Because many people are just so much into survival, they want to hold on to their career or job or something. Like they can't take the risk of ki bilkul bhi ek nayi cheez kuch kare. Do you want to comment on that?
No, I don't. I mean, all I can say is that that never came into. I was lucky, so that never was in the picture.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
But I'd like to make one comment.
Huh.
So there was a friend of mine who, you know, saw this whole library, and I told him about these tuitions. I told him about this course I attended in Vermont, and then a course in Chicago, and then there's this. So he came and saw this and all this. And he was a golfer and a single malter and all that. Very bright guy, school topper and all. So he says, Sale, तूने 20-30 लाख खर्चे कर दिए होंगे, 20-30 लाख रुपए खर्चे कर दिए होंगे सब पे. तो मुझे गुस्सा आया. मैंने कहा, और साले तेरी ये जो भैंसा जैसी एक एसयूवी खड़ी है बाहर, तेरे को जितना मजा उसमें आता है, मेरे को तो उससे ज्यादा मजा इसमें आता.
So actually, Sunil, I think your talk is so full of insights, such powerful self-reflection ki when people listen to it, I feel like I have to listen to it twice at least, because you have said so much. And while you have been doing this inquiry and preparing for this, most of us, we just came and heard your talk now. So it has been a lot of inputs. I feel like you'll get a lot of feedback, especially on the Ubuntu list and all that, and the IIT list from this. So anyway, I just want to mention that I think one reason you might not be hearing more comments is that this is such an intense, thoughtful, inward-looking sort of introspection about your life journey and all that. So I think people are engaged with it. Lekin thoda sa unko time lagega until for the comments and questions to bubble up. So any other comments? Let's just bring this to a close.
Just say, after retirement, it's an adventure in self-awareness.
Very well said, Sunil. So
you can make you feel alive. At least, it did to me.
And you have provided a wonderful story of your journey, Sunil. The access, your own experiments with aliveness, let's say, in becoming alive.
I think on that, you do a lot of introspection. Anybody who does a hell of a lot of introspection and see how he relates to others and their life stories will know how to tell his own life story in a way that it relates to you.
But also, as you said, life sometimes when the chips are down, life, like sometimes it's a crucible kind of experience. Like when 12 years ago, my wife passed away, it was a tremendous time of intense grief. And that there was no escape from that. Sometimes the darkness or the downward spiral is so overwhelming कि आपको कुछ करना पड़ता ही है. Like normally you can dissociate from it, just ignore it or something like that. So it's interesting how life itself presents certain occasions also where more self-reflection can happen. So any other comments?
Think of what happened with you and Yogesh Andle in the same area. I do not want to even think about, but can I just add what Swami Parthasarathy said in one of the talks that I attended? And he talked about something similar to what we are discussing. And he said, do it. One day you will come home and realize that your whole family has been wiped out. And nothing will happen to you. And I'm talking of real fears. We all have real fears. And the only way you can take life, I've heard, and I've started to believe, the only way you can face life's uncertainty and death is by going through the struggle. Otherwise, like we used to all have these aunties and UP used to say, "Koi mar gaya, hi, hi, hi." So you'll always have this.
So Sunil, I'll just say this talk has been so inspiring. You sort of raised the bar on being honest, authentic, and bilkul aapne opened your heart to us. And this game of being more alive, expressing anything, our love, our fears, our concerns in an honest way to those whom we trust, that game is worth playing. What will lead to, we don't know, right? In your case, you found a whole new career, but at least even without a new career, go ahead.
I just the system a little bit, and I'll tell you what I gained in this talk. See, the message that I want to get across, especially to this crowd, is that we hold respectability to be a huge value. And that's a huge inhibitor to self-growth. कि लोग क्या कहेंगे, इससे मेरी नाक कटेगी और ये वो. So how I gained that was that incident that I told you about that young girl in the gym. And half of it is maybe in my head. Okay. So, but the reason I told you was to tell you that it's okay to make a fool of yourself. It's okay to disclose, a part of you that is dark, that you don't want to share with it. So think about this. Think of one thing about you that you don't want to tell other people. Tell it to somebody. That fear you'll get over, because now that you've told it, for example, this fear about this thing, now that I've told it, that fear is gone. What more can happen?
So true, Sunil.
बात तो सुनील, एक बार अपने जिसे कहते हैं ना कि जो कुछ आपके मन में हिचक, रुकावट, डर, भय, जो कुछ भी है, एक बार सरफेस पे आ जाता है तो उसके बाद से वो उसकी उसकी खत्म हो जाती है, ताकत खत्म हो जाती है उसकी आपको तंग करने की।
सी वो मूवी फ्रोजन 2 में यही बोलते हैं, जो भी तुम्हारा फियर है, once you face it, get it over with, it goes away. And that's what we need to do with our lives. Get it over with by saying it. What is the worst that can happen? There are far worse things happening in the world. Hasn't COVID taught you that? Yeah, Sudhir. Sudhir is my school friend. He's the only guy who responded, Bull. But you'll have to unmute.
Oh, sorry. So let's see, Colonel Sudhir. Yes, I've just sent you an unmute prompt.
So he's a helicopter.
Yeah, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to listen to Sunil's beautiful experiences. I'm his classmate, not his college mate, not his IIT mate, but a classmate from St. Joseph's, Allahabad. And I just agree totally with. I put it in the chat. I totally agree with Sunil's concept of rediscovering yourself from being dead to coming alive. Just one small input. And that is what, somebody had come in and said that, what if you don't succeed, So I think what he meant was to achieve the success of the level of what Sunil has, achieved. So it's not that level of success, which we should be bothered about, like become a public acclaim for that matter. What I personally feel is that everybody, maybe not even 1 to 5% of us would reach that level of public acclaim, like Sunil. But what here is more importantly put in by Sunil is to, you realize what we call, say, post-retirement, we become sluggish, we are in a state of slumber, and then you discover and try to, become alive by rediscovering some passion which you align with. Maybe it may be social service around your block, maybe your craze for biking, which was dormant, any personal thing which you would probably have wanted to do, but you didn't get the time, or you didn't have the energy, or any constraint, and you achieve some level of success in that, immaterial, or becoming a public figure or something. And that is what I personally feel is coming alive. Am I right, Sunil?
Yes, I don't know if you missed that part. The realization of that emptiness, the realization that I was living a life under anesthesia. So yes. I have to do something about it.
No, what I was trying to say is, somebody mentioned, that we cannot reach the level of success which probably leads to public acclaim, and you become depressed. So why should you aim to reach that level of public acclaim? You can reach some level of your personal achievements with which you are satisfied, and you've gained happiness. Happiness quotient is not measured by reaching a level of public acclaim. It can be even a small success level. That's it.
Yeah, thanks, Sudhir. So Sanjay, I see that you're back. Any comments from you, Sanjay? I think let's just bring this to a close. Oh, Vijay, were you trying to say something? Hold on one second. Go ahead, Vijay.
I think in the world of sports, it's very easy to see what Colonel Sudhir was just saying. I mean, millions of people play tennis. Okay, there's only one Roger Federer. Okay, everybody cannot be Roger Federer, and that doesn't mean that everybody else will stop playing tennis. It's something. It's a life force. You do it for that, not to become Roger Federer and reach that height. So everybody keeps doing as much as they can to remain alive, as Sunil has so aptly said.
Can I just call on Sudhir? Hey, Colonel, can you just unmute your microphone? Sudhir, can you just unmute your microphone?
I just sent you the unmute prompt, Sudhir.
Can I ask you one thing? Can you just unmute Sudhir?
Okay.
Colonel
Yeah,
Sudhir?
yes, sir.
So I want to make one comment. See, the problem is whenever you have too many choices, you're screwed. I did not have a choice. Now, Sudhir was in school with me, so he knows I'm not lying. I used to get 40% in class 7. I was that bad. That moved to 50% in class 8. I still remember I was sitting in the front row in class 8 on day 1. And the teacher in front said, "This Sunil Agarwal, how did you come to class 8? And the guy behind me, Alec David, said, he walked. And we both got beaten up. Then from 50%, I moved to 55% in class 9. And in class 12, trust me, there was not one subject in which I got more than 61%. Not one subject. Forget about overall percentage, not one subject. How I got into the IIT, please don't ask me. I don't know. How I got through, that part I know. Okay. But I never had choices. When you don't have choices, you have to think differently. When you have to think too many things too easy, that's when you start getting into the routine. You don't think differently.
Wonderful. Okay, well, this has been a fascinating morning. Thank you very much, Sunil. Very inspiring, particularly because all these wonderful ideas have come out of, achieving results in the real world, in the real world practice. Not a monk that is given up things and then, making profound statements. You are a man of this world. So this is quite inspiring. Okay, so last call, I suppose, for any further questions or comments, and after that we can conclude this. All right. Well, let's give our speaker a round of applause. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
All right, Bridge, thanks a lot for hosting this Zoom too.
Oh, not at all. It's a pleasure. Sunil, thanks so much. What a contribution. What a gift you are, Sunil, in the world, not just because of the cartoons and the humor and all that, but who you are as a person. You share yourself so honestly, so generously. Thank you so much. In our world today, we don't talk about, the sense of lack of meaning, even depression or cynicism, resignation. We sort of like push it to the side. So you have sort of opened the door, especially in Ubuntu and all these things, to talk so honestly about mental health and satisfaction, all that. I really acknowledge you, Sunil. I think you're a leader in that way, in your own simple, authentic, simple way, without using big words like spirituality. You're demonstrating what it means to be a kind and honest and authentic person. So I acknowledge you for that and celebrate you, Sunil. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Yeah. So this is going to be available later on as a recording.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good rest of the evening or day, wherever you are. And a happy new year.
For joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining
may
us.
we all be alive. Maybe we all be alive in this new year in 2021, based inspired by Sunil. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.